Okay, looks like I am officially live and just made it in time, folks. It has been an absolutely crazy day. Just literally ran in the door from another extremely busy day in at the center. Wouldn't want it any other way, so not a complaint by any means, but definitely was looking forward all day to coming online here and doing this week's edition of what we now call Wisdom Wednesday. As you know, last week I kind of discussed, you know, kind of what it was like at the Players Championship. Give you a little sneak peek, kind of behind the scenes of what it's like out on the national tour, and then just encouraged everybody in the comments section to essentially come through and give some ideas of what they may want to see in a segment coming up. We had a ton of different ideas that came across the feed. And one of them that I wanted to really know about and kind of talk and get through with everybody was um, the mental game. And I think it's such a huge portion of the game that is often overlooked as part of the equation for essentially becoming the best possible player you could be. So often, I'll have individuals come in and, they'll book lessons and we'll look at ball fit and we'll talk about, the physical aspects of the game. But the one thing I try to intertwine into each one of the sessions that I do is talking about what it takes to have a strong mentality to separate the difference between what I would refer to as an elite player and a really good player. Um, you know, a mental game could be a multitude of different things, and there's no way to have a conversation about the mental game and just give a tip that's going to essentially make everything click for the individual. But what I can say is that having strong mental aptitude when you're competing, whether it is in the league environment, your local tournaments, all the way up to the highest level in the game, is that the individuals who are elite or champions have figured out a way to essentially balance the physical aspects of the game and tie that in with the mental portion as well. It doesn't matter how often you practice the physical side. It doesn't matter how good your ball fit is. What you have between the ears and how you hold it together on the ups and downs of the game is what's going to make you a stronger player. It doesn't matter how good of a run you may be on. Um, you have to understand that you're going to go through some lows and you're going to go through some highs. And that could be during a block, that could be, a couple days in a week, it could be a longer portion of time. But essentially, you need to understand how you address those and how you get through the those peaks and valleys. Okay, how do you approach it, right? How can you say to a person, um, be mentally smarter, right? How do you present that, right? And I think that first and foremost, you need to understand the triggers of the mental game. All right. And it's kind of funny because the other day when I posted about doing a segment on the mental game, I essentially saw one of my local staffers here, Lance Day, had put up something I've used very often in my life, and I quoted a movie, and it's The Replacements. It's a comedy, okay, but at one portion during the movie, the coach was asking the players in the locker room, what scares them, right? And Shane Falco's in the background, and he says quicksand. Some other guy says bees, and they went on this tangent. But quicksand is something I've used very often because I think it relates so well into how we can quickly uh, start fighting ourselves, and no matter how much we fight, we continue to go the wrong direction. Okay, so let's say that we're up and we threw a poor shot or had a bad break or missed the spare. Essentially, none of us, it doesn't matter how mentally strong we are going to be happy with that happening. All right, but how we deal with that afterwards is going to dictate what we do next. Okay, you have got to be able to channel, to have short-term memory, and not allow your mind to creep and allow it to go into the next shot you may make. Okay, so let's say I rang a 10 pin and I was on a string and I was super frustrated and I lost that mental focus, and I go up and I whiff the spare. All right, now I'm festering even more inside, because not only did I get frustrated because I left the pin up I didn't think I should have or didn't deserve, but I let those thoughts continue to creep into my mind, and it affected what I'm going to do next. Okay. And many of us, when we get mad for the second time, we're going to go back. So we made a bad shot, we missed the spare, and now we're going back and we're like, we got 100 things going on in our mind and we still haven't let it go. And it's like, when we refer to it as quicksand, is that you keep going deeper and deeper. You're trying harder and harder to build yourself or bring yourself up, only to go in the wrong direction because it's so easy to fall backwards. All right. That is not a fun feeling when you're on the lanes. I think you have to have a mentality and understand it in this manner. Okay. We play a game, a sport, where you're not always rewarded for your best shot. You're sometimes rewarded for your poor shots. And if you're bowling against another individual, you could get into the pitfall where you're too worried about what they're doing as well. The best advice that I can give everybody is to understand that we play an imperfect game. Okay, bowling isn't a fair game. All right, you're going to get tapped on some of the best shots you felt you thrown, but it's how you handle the peak and valley. Okay, so I'm sitting here talking to the individuals that are on here, but I have to listen to my own words as well. Okay, it's very easy for a person who wants to do well, wants to stay in the moment, into the shot, to quickly regress when things aren't going the way that they want it to go. But one of the triggers for me that I've really helped to understand is I can't control that. Okay, I can't control if I ring 10. I can't control if I felt I threw a good shot and it left me a designer split I didn't deserve. Why couldn't I just have a makeable? Okay. You have to get to the point where you truly understand as a person that you have to be able to let it go and just stay in the moment for that particular shot. All right. You have got to have short term memory and refocus your efforts on making the best possible shot you can on the next one. All right. Some individuals really like to use breathing, and it has helped me. I feel like, if I'm leaving a 10 pin or I'm lined up, a good mechanism for me when I feel like a little angst or something after a poor shot, or even a good shot that didn't go my way, is to just basically take a nice deep breath. Okay. You could make it part of your pre-shot routine or your cadence to essentially just take a deep breath and exhale and just let it out. Okay. You're going to have a sense of calmness a little bit that can come over you, and refocus your efforts onto what you're going to do. All right. Once you start to do that and understand that only to focus on the things that you can control, things are going to go a lot further. Okay. The other thing that you need to really and truly understand, especially if you're bowling another individual, whether it's in a league setting or a tournament, or match play, or on a step ladder on TV. Okay, you are bowling the lane and the pins. Okay, you're not actually playing against the other person. All right, too often I think some individuals get too much wrapped up into trying to play defense instead of playing offense. And when you get the mentality to understand that you're never going to be able to control what the person you are doing or playing against, or you see a couple lanes over, is doing, you can't let those outside voices come in and affect what you're doing. Okay. Too often you're like, I can't believe they carried that, or somebody came to face in, or they went runaway Brooklyn, or, whatever it is. Just remember, you can't change that, because again, we're participating in a game that is imperfect, okay? And I think that's what makes it so pure and what makes it such, makes the game as fun as what it is. Because if it was so easy, you essentially, we could all go out there, we'd all average, the max score possible, and there wouldn't be anything to the game to truly make it a game. All right. You have to stay within the moment and understand that you can only control what you do. All right. Sure, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to there's going to be times where it's hard to keep your composure and your cool. And you may be tired of watching, the particular person get every single break. And all while you feel like you're making the best possible shots. And again, closely, hitting that quick stand. Hey, what's up, Machuga? Drive and talk to me. I do plenty of talking on here, my friend. So glad you stopped by the program tonight. But if you focus in on the things you can control and you try to get rid of the white noise that's around you, you're definitely going to make the best possible shot that you can make for yourself. Okay. And I used some references last week on the program and stuff about, even at the Players Championship, we were talking about things last week where, certain styles and things can get a little frustrating because it seemed like they had a, statistical advantage over us. And, if I chose to just get hung up on that, I probably would have just packed up and went home early. But I chose to try to keep my composure even when I didn't have my best stuff. All right. And try to extract and learn the things from the mental side of the game of what I can do differently to stay in the moment of myself. All right. I can't change, again, the actions of somebody else. And guess what? Every single one of us that participates on the lane is going to get that lucky break sometime. They're going to get the crossover or the cave in on a multiplier for a 5-bagger. And you're going to be the one that somebody is complaining about a couple pairs over. Okay. So this isn't always just about what we do and what we see of others. Others are saying when we seem to have the knack or the advantage or getting every break in the building. When it's your day, it's your day. But again, use some of those breathing exercises to kind of, calm the mind and make the best possible shot you can the next time you step on the approach. And if that's a spare or, you're trying to get relined up, you're trying to get a good read on a pair, you need to keep your mind sharp and focused in on what you're doing. Or you could rip the holes out of it. That was last weekend or 2 weekends ago. And really go up there and focus on making the best possible shot. And you know what? Maybe that next shot that you make is money and it's a great shot and it still doesn't go your way. If you essentially start, frying out or letting your emotions get the best of you, I guarantee you the next time you go up to either shoot the spare or you go up and you take the next shot on the lane, you're not going to make your best shot. All right. You got all those little demons in the back of your head and you just have to let it come to rest. Don't allow the quicksand to let you go deeper and deeper and deeper with no end in sight. I definitely want to catch a couple of the comments that did come in here. So Brandon, you popped in, focus on the current shot. You can't change past nor predict the future, which is absolutely correct, Brandon. I mean, when we talk about the mental side of it, especially if you're in a longer format, you may, in a long format on a tough pattern, maybe you bowl the 150 or the 130 or whatever, whatever it comes, you just have a blow up game. All right. You could choose to continue to fester over that, or you can refocus your efforts and try to make the best possible score for the next game coming up. And you definitely aren't going to change what happened. You're not going to go back and get the hit you thought you should have had. You're not going to go back and be able to erase the blower 710 you left the frame before that you felt you labeled. But what you can do is you can refocus in on what you're going to do the very next time you step on the approach. Carrie, people have to realize that sometimes things aren't just meant to be on certain days. You cannot control it. You can't. Carrie, I'm going to use you as an example, okay? And I think it's a fair assessment. So Carrie just got back from Texas in the PWBA. And she, we had some good conversations while she was out there. She had an absolutely horrific first day when she was there. Physically, just didn't have it, wasn't comfortable, couldn't get things going the right way. And the one thing I will tell you is from a mental side of it, I thought she did a fantastic job to at least stay in a moment and fight for every single pin that she could, even knowing that something physically felt off. Okay. So sometimes when something isn't going right on the physical aspect of it, if our mental game is weak, it's going to make the physical issues that we have compounded by tenfold. All right. If you dwell on it, you get fried out, you can't refocus your efforts or try to address what's going on. You're probably going to continue to throw it as bad, if not worse, as you move forward. And, that night, obviously, I think a good thing that you can do when you feel like that angst or you were trying to keep composure is a good mechanism is being able to essentially talk through it with somebody. Okay. And, I think it's a good thing because you need as an individual to be able to kind of vent, to be able to kind of express what you saw, what you were feeling, understanding, maybe it has something to do on the physical side, but, mentally let it out, talk through the things you're seeing. So, out on tour and stuff, depending on what stop you are, you have some reps there. And I think, those guys do a pretty good job, and it's a selfless job sometimes, is just allowing for an ear for individuals to kind of talk through things, which could be physical or, the mental side of it, to refocus your focus on the task at hand, which is making the best shot you can the next time you step on the lanes. Again, quicksand, got to avoid the quicksand. So carry regroup, we talked through it. We knew it was some of the things that we, essentially talked through was saw some physical things, but she kept her head up and knew that even though it was a performance she wants to forget about, she has the opportunity to basically go back on the next time out. And she knew she had an extra event, and she went in and she had a great performance physically, made some changes. That center they bolted in ITRC is very hard pair to pair. So you got to be mentally focused and ready to go and see different shapes moving around in the building. She still didn't lose track of when she bowled poorly, keeping her notebook and understanding when she went back to that pair, even though it was a different pattern, what she could expect. Because guess what? If she was that mentally upset and didn't do the journaling and the things and the intel of what you may see when you do it again, her second day very well could have been even deeper quicksand, because now she not only didn't learn mentally, she didn't put anything in the bank for what she may need to do differently, whether it's, just the way looking at the lane or a physical thing, but she did and had a good, solid, I think like an 18th place finish or something. And refocused on that, just barely missed the big cut. And then she went into the regional again, just going in there to learn, to make the best shots, to refocus on what she can control. And, she was in the top four pretty much the whole time. And, I'm driving back from Schenectady from a tournament and trying to listen to the last game on the live stream. And, she went up on the right lane, I think it was at one point, and hit the pocket, and she's 7-9-10. 7-9-10. You heard me say that correctly. That was not a misspoken thing there. 7-9-10 when she basically needed it, and it cost her the top four. But where I'm going at with this is after she got her stuff put away, and she called and she talked through it. She goes, "You know what? I did what I could do. I couldn't control that the pins decided to act in that manner, and I still cashed for the tournament. Every time I went, put my shoes on while I was there, my performance was better than the time before." And I'm telling you, it's not just because she physically threw it better, but it's because her mind to get ready for the event, during the event, and executing while she was there is essentially what got her to have better performances. Okay, she didn't magically find a bowling ball that worked better. Went in, and it's the way you attack and you put the equation together of all things that go together to equal a good performance. All right. So I thought that was a good one to hear because I think it's, it's important to understand that, again, it's not always just the physical aspect of it. Mentally, you have to understand, you have to adapt, you have to be able to channel your emotions. And a lot of times with that mental portion of it, you can take and harness that strong mental portion and turn it into performance and confidence in what you're doing, right? What else Mike wrote here? Not to toot your own horn, but I always believe I have a chance until mathematically eliminated, and that's when true character is revealed. It's true, Mike, and I know as well as you do. When we crossed the players, obviously none of us had the starts we wanted, but there was at no point was there a time when anybody gave up. And if he's on here listening, and I don't mean this in a poor way, I want to say it, but we crossed with a gentleman that struggled really. He was way down. First time he was out there, but I gave him a lot of credit because he tried every shot. Right. Mike didn't have the greatest carry on his side, greatest look early on, but had a good third block. And I know as well as he does that mathematically he wasn't eliminated, and he's going into block 4 on Shark and is going to address it and try to maximize every pin he can get, knowing he's not going to win the tournament, but he's going to try until the very last shot is out there, and made a very good run over the last 2 blocks. And even going into that from a mental kind of approach and physical approach, we talked before that block, and we broke down that first that first pair, in my opinion, perfectly, and had the right game plan. And if we could have broke every single pair down, you never know what would have happened. I mean, 260s on the front one, but it's it's all part of the equation. And when you mentally prepare yourself in the right manner, the physical portion of your game is going to go tenfold better. Okay. And you really, really, really have to understand how you carry yourself. Okay. There's nothing worse than, seeing somebody that probably has a poor mental game, or they're having a poor performance and they're flailing around on the approach while you're up there, and just kind of making a racket and stuff like that. And that's also from a sportsmanship point of view is not something that needs to be done on any level either, right? Think about what you're doing and how you want people to perceive you as well. All right, I guarantee you, if you take some of the things that we talk about, whether it's on this session or learning about ball motion and fit and everything else like that, you're going to truly understand that your execution is going to go up because you are more focused in on what you're going to do. All right. Don't want to miss anything on here, guys. So Adam Barta, good to see you stopping by, my man. Congratulations on 300 number, what was it, 220 something silly I saw the other day. I'm right behind you, man. I mean, I'm probably another 150 and I'm going to catch you. But Bernie, trying to learn more process oriented than outcome oriented. Absolutely. Process oriented is great. Let's be honest with ourselves too. When we're talking about the mental portion or the physical portion, you need to truly assess yourself as well. When you go into a tournament and let's say you're gonna bowl in something that is very challenging, you better be mentally ready and you better understand your strengths and weaknesses, because if you're not physically and mentally ready to go into a block or into that type of environment, you're not going to have the outcome you're looking for. And you're going to so quickly fall back and regress into, being upset. And then you get the noises in your head saying, am I good enough to be doing this? And what was I thinking? And there's no time or place for that in the game that we love so much, right? You have to have confidence. You have to have a mentality that anytime that you put your shoes on, you have a chance to come away with a win, or even if it's winning your league night or whatever you're looking to do. You have to have that combination of confidence, physical prowess on the lanes, and mentally understanding the do's and don'ts and what you need to do to excel. I mean, it's all part of an equation, all part of a process. If there's any 76ers fans in here, we might want to stop saying trust the process, because that's been way too many years. I think they need to trade for the process, but that's another story. Mike, yeah, like you said, tried so hard. He absolutely did. He tried every shot, and God bless him. Hopefully, he learned, from that. And again, he's actually. I saw he was in the backstage group, which is the coaching group that Brian, Shannon, Shades, and Jasnell and them are running. And he's trying to learn. He's trying to work on things he can do and what he can do to better his game. And I respect that. I respect the fact that he wants to be better at what he's doing. He did it for a reason, and he bowled all 4 squads, and man, he tried every single time. Brian, if you can learn something every time you bowl, it will make you better. Absolutely. And again, I think too often we focus way too much on just the physical side of the game. There's tons of good reads and good books out there, but not everybody's into reading a novel to kind of understand or to try to really get through for what they want to do. But some people just need to kind of hear it, instead of being a visual or an audible learner. You don't need to read every book out there to be strong mentally. You just have to have a thought process in your mind to understand that you can be different. Okay. And when you start focusing on the things you can control, you're going to see that very quickly. All right, Justin. I see a lot of youth today struggle with the mental game because they feel it's strike or nothing. I think the respect for the game is key, as there will always be pocket shots that don't fall. Like you mentioned, the 7-9-10 split. What advice do you have for that? Well, I guess, Justin, the best way I can address this one is like, all right, I was a youth player too. All right, long time ago. And as a youth player, I would say I was more on the hot-headed side. Okay, I was probably immature, and I was one of those kids when I was younger that knew I was pretty good at the game, and I would lose my emotions, quickly when things didn't go my way. And when you look back on it now, I think that's why I spend so much time trying to educate youth and even adults for how to approach the game, how to carry themselves. Because again, I think with the way that the game has evolved, and that it seems like a 7-bagger makes up for every hole somebody leaves, is where some of those things that the youth do happen, and it happens at every level, right? I would say it's almost a lost art form of the art of being a unbelievable spare shooter. And trust me, when I got back from the Players Championship, I had one of the worst spare shooting performances that I could think of. Just physically felt terrible and worked my butt off when I got home. Okay, because it's such an important part of the game. When you feel it's a strike or nothing, you're obviously probably bowling on something that is pretty easy. And I think when it comes from an education standpoint, when I'm addressing youth, one of the things that I focus on, not only with the mental aspect of it but really trying to teach the youth players and even adults at that. So I don't want to pick on the youth, the difference between a good quality shot and a shot that's struck. Okay. And there is a big difference. All right. Every single thing that touches the head pin is not meant to fall over. Okay. Newsflash. You need to understand when your bowling ball is going through the pins correctly, when you have essentially the wrong ball or bad ball reaction in your hand. And that will tie in and make sense to not having the feeling that every single time you throw it down the lane, it should strike. All right. If you can strike and understand that it wasn't your best quality shot and learn from that shot, guess what? Now you're starting to think with your mind. Okay. That is part of the mental portion of the game. The mental portion of the game will allow you to then physically make a change, to make a better shot when it comes, or make a proper adjustment before something doesn't go your way, meaning, missing the cues of when transition is happening and understanding what your bowling ball is trying to tell you. Okay. That ties it in. Advice I would have for a youth, okay, is focus more on what I'm saying here for the mental portion of it and understand you are not perfect. But when you're practicing, the last thing I want to see you do is go and throw games. And I've seen it way too many times. And we're standing left, throwing it right, seeing how many times we can strike. Because I'm going to tell you, when you get to a level where spares are important, where you're bowling on a pattern that is harder, you're going to get exposed. You're going to get exposed to the fact that you're going to be giving away pins that you can't possibly get back because the 4, maybe 5 baggers aren't out there to make up for the insufficiencies of the bad spare shooting. So if you focus on the mental aspect of it and stay within the moment, practice some of those breathings, having, a good pre-shot routine and focusing in on what you're doing. I think another one, when you think about the mental game, every player is different too. Okay. There's certain players that really like to be social when they're bowling. There's other players that are very, very quiet. There's players that are loud. There's just the different ways they carry themselves. But Justin, if you're going to go to a tournament and you're going to focus in on trying to have your best overall performance and see how your mental game matches up, what I would encourage you to do is to, one, practice with a purpose. But when you get into starting to compete, I want you to try to stay in the moment by just focusing in on what you're there to do. Okay. It's okay to be social. Okay. But really, if you're competing, and especially if it's somebody competing for money or whatever they're doing from a social aspect, stay within the moment of what you're doing. I don't want to say horse blinders, but you really need to focus in on what you're doing. Focus in the background of making the best possible shot you can. When you step on the approach, from the mental side of it, you're done. It's time to execute. You do your thinking in the back. You have a mental picture for what you want to do, what you want to do from physical. Get the ball, pick up your ball, do your pre-shot routine, and go up and execute what you did. Okay. Just focus on hitting your mark, basically. Okay. You can't be up there from a mental side of it or physical side of it and trying to say, okay, I got to take a step, I got to push my arm, I got to drop it into the swing, make sure my spine tilt isn't too far forward, make sure I dig in the legs, and make sure I get my hand the whole way through it. If you got those things going on in your mind, we need to figure out a way to clean the mechanism. Another, what was that? The Perfect Game, I think, with Costner. I might have the wrong title of that, but he would do like the clear the mechanism and get in the moment and shut off all the white noise in the background, and he would go and he would execute what he wanted to do. It's huge, okay, and it is hard if you're an emotional person. You get pumped up by performance and stuff. The mental side of it has to burn through on that to understand and keep yourself enough in check, because again, if your mental game isn't good, that's going to separate somebody, a good player from being great, maybe a great player from being elite, and maybe an elite person from being a national tour titleist like, Mr. Machuga that's on the feed here tonight. And, he's not going to be perfect all the time. None of us are going to be perfect all the time. We're going to have momentary lapses where our mental game isn't perfect. Okay. But what we choose to do after that and address when we have those breakdowns about how to do it differently the next time around, that's when you grow. That's when you grow as a person. That's when your game grows. That's when you learn to be better than you were yesterday. Right? We always talk about continuous improvement. We talk about, when we're talking in segments about small building of a person, right? It's all aspects. Physically better than I was, today. I want to be physically better tomorrow. Mentally, I want to be a little sharper than I was. When I go into the next tournament, I think when you start to put those equations together, it's going to equal performances that are more of what you're looking for, because you're owning the entire process, the entire portion of how the game is approached. All right. What advice can you give someone who wants to work on their mental game? Again, I think some of that, Kerry, I answered a little bit for Justin there, but if you want to work on your mental game, I think a good way to first approach it is to kind of talk through somebody with how you essentially look at the game in general. Okay. Because you need to understand what that person's triggers are. All right. What triggers them? Like if I was to ask a fair question and have you assess what upsets you the most with the game, I would be looking for a response to come back to understand. And then after that, I would ask you what the second thing that seems to bother you, what you feel. So again, first I'm going to approach it by trying to have the individual self-assess themselves. Assess to me how you feel your game is from a mental standpoint, and then assess for me how you feel you handle, um, bad breaks or a loss or a bad day at the office, if you will. Because if you can get the individual talking um, about how they feel they are personally, it helps to give a foundation as a starting point to understand what maybe some of the triggers are. Because mental things are a bunch of triggers. It doesn't matter if it's bowling or if it's in your regular life or at your job or there's always things that seem to trigger people in different manners, and not any one of us is the same. It's just like if I was, myself, and I call myself a coach, but a coach is just as much of a teacher as the word coach, because we have to adapt our teaching styles to accommodate the learner. Okay. And if I'm not explaining something in the right manner, I need to change the way that I'm delivering the message to get through to the individual. Okay. So let's say, I kind of prod a little bit about them, about the mental and what they see. Um, Maybe it doesn't click right away for them and they can't answer it real well. Then that's, something I can work with them on to essentially try to extract from them a better way of opening them up to understand what their shortfalls they think might be. Um, it's very easy. I mean, and it could be from a multitude of things. So I'm hard on myself. Okay, and I talked about this on last week's program because I didn't know if I'd ever remotely be able to get back on the lanes on a long format and ever do it again. So it was great just to get out there and see if I was capable of doing the physical side of it. And I'm hard on myself for the fact that up here I have it. Okay, I do have the mental game. I feel to an extent it's always a work in progress. But what I have up here is the knowledge of the bowling balls, the knowledge of the technology involved in it, understanding transitions, understanding the oil patterns, understanding who I'm following and what I'm seeing, from working as a rep. Like I have that side of it. I've had portions over the years where I'm throwing it fantastic. Okay, so I have some of the physical attributes, but what I don't sometimes have, and where I'm hard on myself, is that respecting the game enough to know that I need to make time to work more on myself physically on the lanes. Right, I'm always helping other people. I'm on here right now and hopefully helping a bunch of people, and I love it. So I'm not taking anything away from it, but sometimes I get mental creep because I start to understand and kind of come down on myself a little bit, because if I don't have the greatest performance, my mind wants to wonder to the fact that, Jeff, you didn't really prepare the way you should have, right? Here you are bowling with, the best in the world, and they're probably working harder than you. Maybe not working as hard in terms of doing physical work, but they're more prepared than I was from a physical shot making ability, repeatability. So then you start, quickly I could just mentally give up and say, what am I, again, what am I thinking? What am I doing? But you can't let that happen. What you got to do is you got to refocus that, ask myself those same questions, and fairly assess myself on the things that I control and what I can't control, right? So from a mental aspect and a physical aspect, what can I control? I can control working harder. Okay. I can control making more time for myself and still helping others. I can control not making an excuse to not practice more, i.e., I'm too busy, I'm tired, all those other things. No different than somebody that goes to the gym or doesn't go and kind of gives up on it. I can control this, right? So I'm no different than anybody I'm talking to here. You have got to find a way to fairly assess yourself from a mental standpoint and prepare yourself to be, again, the best version you can of yourself. I think they're all great, questions that are coming through here, and hopefully they're helpful. Looks like my brother popped in here. It's the avoidance of cranial rectimus. Yeah, it's that's a different way of putting it, but yes, sometimes we basically just need to get out of our own way. I think is another way that you can put it to, not let the mind creep come in there and question yourself. Um, Confidence. Have confidence in yourself. Have confidence in what you're doing. Zero in on the things you can control and get rid of the white noise, which is the things you can't control. Okay. I don't care how many times the person you're bowling goes Brooklyn, caves the face in. Yeah, it sucks, right? It sucks to watch it. It sucks if you're getting beat by it. But again, if you let it creep in there, you may not make your best shot. And when they finally pay for their mistakes, um, it may be too late because you kind of gave up on yourself in the process of what you were doing. All right. Colin, for someone who doesn't have a vast knowledge of the technical side of bowling, when people around me are talking technical that I don't understand it, but I want to put myself in a more discouraged mental state. That's why I love learning with these videos. And that's great, Colin. I mean, hopefully everybody that's out there gets that from these segments, whether they're on lane play and layouts or learning about balls and understanding what the differences are between them. Again, it's really myself trying to essentially help as many people as possible to continue to grow the sport, to understand the game, and to advocate for just how special this game is, right? And it's evolving, right? And whether we like the evolution of what's going on, it's here. I can choose to dwell or I can choose to adapt, and I choose adapting. I'm itching, chomping at the bit. I talked to Carrie yesterday. I said, you know, maybe it seems, a little crazy, because I got the players under my belt, and maybe it's not a lot of spots, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go down and I'm going to try to bowl the PTQ for the World Series. It's not that expensive to get to Florida, and why not? I'm not getting any younger, and I feel, I'm throwing it pretty well, and mentally, I can be stronger each time I go out there, and I love it, man. I can't wait. I'm bowling this weekend in Cleveland. Doing an over under with Robert Leonard, who's a fellow Hammer staffer. I'm looking forward to that, and getting back out there on the lanes and trying to chase a banner. It's something I wanted and something I'm gonna get. I'm telling you right now. I'm saying it live on this feed. I will get to the pinnacle of what I want, and if I don't, I'm gonna go down fighting to get there. Okay, I'm not giving up, but. Wow, 43 minutes in already. I say it all the time. I love to talk, so I have no problem doing that. Sorry, my nose is running like crazy here. I ran from the shop and drilling all day, and a little cold outside, and I need some food. But what else we got there? Any other things or topics when it comes to maybe the mental aspect, or it doesn't have to be that either. Anything that you kind of wanted to maybe go over quick before I cut the feed out? Mike Kess looks like he just went in. Having come back the opposite hand and physically limited, any advice for dealing with the disappointment of not being near the level I was? Starting over for a third time is hard for me to find the desire to go on. And Mike, I get it. Obviously good one-handed player, that it bowled with his right hand. Just give you a little background on Mike, and had some, major surgeries and stuff like that. And having to bowl left-handed. And, I think the advice that I would give for you, Mike, is the reason that you chose to go and use your other hand is because of how much you actually do love the game. Okay. So the scoring aspect of it, I think, is what you need from a mental standpoint, is something we're talking about is to not even worry about keeping score. And I know that's hard if you're bowling a league. All right. And try to focus in on the things you loved about the sport. And I think what it'll come around full circle to you is that you're going to remember what it felt like to throw an absolutely pure shot. Or going back to maybe when, in your youth years where, as a right-handed player, you learn to start maybe hooking a little more and your targeting got better. Um, and focus in on those things to give yourself some small milestones to essentially focus in on instead of it being tied to a number. I think it's a fun thing you could do. Maybe would be like if you are going to get some practice in and you're doing some things left-handed, is to challenge yourself a little bit. Understand the things you understand when you were right-handed and trying to raise average. Figuring out what pins are giving you the worst combinations to shoot at, because we all know that opens 9 outs, it's 11 pins. If it's less than that, you can it can be a couple. Every open that you have is a minimum of 11, right? So if you focus in on those things, I think you can have some fun with it and learning how to do it, even though you're using the other hand. But at the same point, you're essentially going to then address another issue, which is when you start zeroing in on the spare shooting aspect and having fun with it and learning how to do it in a different way to make it more repetitive. Your average is also going to come with you as well, because mentally you focused in on, again, what you could control, and you could control try to make more of the spares, right? Are you ever going to have the 500 rev rate you had as a right-hander? Probably not. Okay. But I don't think the 500 rev rate is what made you love the game. I think what made you love the game was the purity, the trying to get to the pinnacle. And you know what? I think a cool goal for you would be that, close those boxes, set a goal for yourself for the year for maybe a single game. And when you hit that threshold, now you have something to look forward to in the next one, right? So whether that's, posting a 250 or 600 or 650 series, I don't know where you're at right now, left-handed, but give yourself some small goals. And then when you hit those goals, Mike, make sure you celebrate those goals. And then you make the next one that comes around. All right. Colin, maybe you touched on this earlier, but what are some of your personal goals you set before entering an event, local or tour? Do you ever change your goals based off your performance? Yeah, sure. I'm going to change my goals. I'm definitely going to assess when I don't have my best tournament. One thing I do a lot of focusing in on, Colin, is, and not everybody's in this situation, but I have every ball shape you could possibly want at my fingertips. So what you're not going to hear me say is that I had bad ball motion, or I wish I would have had this piece with me, or blah, blah, blah. A lot of times it's really centered around myself and how I executed. And I think one of my biggest goals for local is I'm always trying to stay clean, right? I feel if I stay clean in tournament league play, if you do that, you're going to exponentially have a much better shot of cashing in every single time you put your shoes on. Right. And, I assess myself and my goals based on, single pin conversions, or what we refer to as makeables. And then I also try to have a mindset of what I'm going to change is we do with, journaling as well, because, when it comes to spare shooting, depending on the pattern lengths and things like that, what I've learned over the years is that, how I go about it on certain pattern lengths and with certain bowling balls changes how I shoot certain spares. So do I'm going to change my goal based off of performance? Obviously, I don't know that I'd fully change my goal unless it is to make the goal more stringent, or that I've achieved a portion of my goal. Then I'm going to move on and take whatever the next step is and try to get to that point as well. Okay. When I got healthy, one of the things that I was saying is, okay, I want to cash in X amount of local tournaments, and I want to cash in X amount of regionals, and I want to bowl X amount of national stops, right? Right now, my goal isn't very much different. I haven't been totally healthy, for a long, long period of time. So, I'm hoping the regional schedule fills up really well. I mean, definitely, I want to make sure that my goal for this year going in is to cash in at least half of them. Okay. I'm a realist. Okay. It's 1 in 3. The cash ratio is good. The guys out there are really good. And, I got some catching up to do when it comes to being as sharp and on the lanes. And I'm going to get there though by physically working hard and mentally being stronger than I ever was before. So hopefully that answered that question for you as well. And by all means, no problem, Mike. I really do mean it. Not just trying to give you just some blown up encouragement, but I think it's I think it's a testament. I mean, another individual, if it wasn't yourself, may have just chosen to just hang it up, right? And to me, the person that hung it up probably hung it up because they didn't love the game like you do. You wouldn't sit in there and show up to tournaments and help out and run brackets and do the things the little things within the sport. You wouldn't have done those at all. You would have just walked away from it, right? That was your way of trying to still be involved in the game while you were sidelined. And now, it's different. You're coming back, and it may not be 100% of what you wanted to do with the knees and the stuff like that, but it's your way of still touching the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, we got to be content with it sometimes, and I get it because I was, as I missed a lot of time being injured, and that's where I really turned into coaching and teaching and being the best, literally the best pro shop operator I can be, to understand it and change how I understand the game, how I understand my craft, how I impact my customers. And I like to look at it as, through those tough times, I lived kind of vicariously through their performances because I felt like the more that I could extract out of the things I knew I was really good at and pass it on to individuals is going to make them tenfold better. I get enjoyment out of seeing you guys and gals that are out there watching these programs just being awesome in the lanes. There's nothing more rewarding than that to me. And, it's no different if you're a bowling coach or a football coach or tennis or whatever you're playing. You're right there with it. And you feel the reward, maybe not the monetary side of it, but you feel the reward of knowing that you had an impact on somebody, and in the end you get a sense of fulfillment out of that, even though you may have not even thrown the bowling ball down the lane, right? You saw it. You saw something that they probably didn't see. And if they didn't have that individual to back them or help things through them, they wouldn't be where they're at either. So you still have a portion of the game that you can advance at and you can excel at, and you just work on the other ones slowly and set those small little goals for yourself, and I think you'll have a little more fun with it. Anyone else out there, any last minute ones that I can kind of address or answer for you here? If not, I'm going to give it a second or two here, but if not, I'm probably going to finally sit down and have some dinner for myself. And tomorrow night, get a busy day again at the shop as always, but I definitely will be on the feed tomorrow night. Myself and Carrie are going to be throwing the brand new Obsession and the Obsession Tour down the lane. Giving them a test drive. We're going to have out, it's going to be a little different this week because we're going to put out the 39-foot Carter pattern that we're going to see up in Cleveland this weekend. So, just kind of see what they look like on a different pattern length and kind of give a little different viewpoint. And, hopefully you guys are going to love what you see and enjoy those and probably get some pre-orders in on them because, I'm not one that's going to tell you every single ball that comes out special. I feel I assess stuff pretty fairly, and I'm going to assess if it fits in my bag. But I mean, man, I'm really impressed with the Obsession Tour so far. The regular Obsession, I'm looking forward to being able to throw it on a little more volume and really let that thing open up and eat a little bit. But hopefully everybody that was on the night can tune in tomorrow. And if you are enjoying these segments, and again, as I said, throw some ideas, send me a message. Everybody, my cell phone is public. It's 717-679-8225. You can text me anytime you want, preferably not in the middle of the night because I'm slow, probably won't hear it anyway. And, give some ideas of things you may want to hear a little bit more about or pick my brain. We'll definitely address those on a Wednesday. The other days of the week too, stop in. ask those questions when it's a technical aspect on a bowling question or about a bowl, or, trying to understand, that aspect of the game in more detail, because I'll be more than glad to explain it any which way you need to better make you feel like it's understood. So it doesn't look like any more came through in there. So what I'm going to do is, like I always do at the end of each segment, is just kind of throw it out there, gang. Right now, support bowling. We want to see that growth come back, and hopefully, with vaccinations and everything else that's going around, and trying to get a handle on this crazy virus, that we see the boom and the growth coming back. But support the local proprietors. By all means, continue to support me at the center and at Pure Bowling, because honestly, I'm amazed at how many people come in and just keep me busy, keep me on my toes. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. If you're not close enough and you're tuning in from afar, support your local pro shop operator, your local proprietors, bowling in general. By all means, again, I'm going to say it. It's up in that corner. These bowling balls, Hammer, Brands of Brunswick. We're making some pretty special stuff right now. Go out and get you one, and you definitely won't be disappointed in it. But again, see everyone tomorrow night, and hopefully you enjoy what you see. And if you're bored over the weekend, follow along the scores, and hopefully see myself and Carrie and some of the other gang going up there, making a deep run into those finals this weekend and chasing a banner. So until then, gang, I enjoyed it. Hope you did too, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Take care now.